evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to join us in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. The long-awaited upper house of the parliament is now complete, with the first ever senatorial session awaited in 5 days, which will see the putting in place of the rules and regulations governing the Senate and also the new Bureau of the Senate. In this newscast, we take you to the far north region of the country, where the kidnapping of the 7 French nationals in that part of Cameroon has seemingly scared away expatriates, as it is becoming more and more difficult to find them in public places. And parishes or clergymen here in parishes in the economic capital Douala have exhorted patients or have exhorted Christians to exercise the sense of responsibility as they celebrate the ascension of Jesus Christ. This is the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. Good evening to you once again, viewers. Like we announced in the headlines, Cameroon Senate House is now complete after yesterday's presidential decree appointed the remaining 30 senators and their alternates. The 100 elected and appointed members of the Senate are due to meet in plenary with the National Assembly on May 14, 2013. And Roland Akong, our Yaoundé-based correspondent, caught up with some of the elected members of the Senate. That is precisely the former Prime Minister, head of government, Ephraim or Peter Mafani Musonge, shortly after his appointment, and put together the following report.
Peter Mafani Musonge is one of the 30 senators appointed by President Biya. The former PM, before his appointment, is Grand Chancellor of the National Order.
First, I must thank the President of the Republic for the appointment, which was a big surprise to me. And I promise that I will serve him and the country to the best of my ability, with the help of God Almighty.
Aisha Ayatu, linguist and wife of former PM Sadu Ayatu, is among the 30 senators appointed by President Biya.
I was so proud by this appointment. I feel so honored by the head of state, and I am very grateful. Yes.
Je suis Pong Moni, a seasoned prison administrator. Former registrar of the Kondengi prison, is also among the 30 senators appointed by President Biya.
I am very satisfied. And what I can say today is that the head of state make me to be the Senate in this country, and I am very satisfied for that. Very satisfied for that.
Francois Xavier Meignet, 50, and a notary by profession, is now a senator. The mandate of the Pioneer Senators begins next May 14.
Cameroon's former minister Peter Mafani Musonge and wife, as well as other appointed members of the Senate there, expressing their joy shortly after they were appointed to Yaoundé-based correspondent Roland Akong. Meanwhile, the appointed senators include 18 traditional rulers, 10 former ministers, with some members of the civil society. Babla Jonathan, in the following report, presents to us the list of the 30 appointed senators in the following report.
The Senate in the Republic of Cameroon is now complete following the appointment of 30 senators by the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, in conformity with legal dispositions. He signed a decree to this effect yesterday. The list is as follows: Adamawa Region, Baba Hamadou, Musa Sabo, Muhammad Gabdo. Central Region, Nkodo Laurent, Ondwa Pius, Pokmoni Jean-Marie. East Region, Mata Joseph Roland, Zengele René, Aboui Malis. Extreme North Region, Mahamad Baha Manouf, Baskuda Jean-Baptiste, Dakule Daisala. Littoral Region, Madiba Songi, Itame Masuma David Siegfried, Ngaya Pierre Flambeau. North Region, Abubakari Abdullahi, Hayatu Aisha Pierret, and Hamadou Abdul. Northwest Region, Fondou Ganyonga III, Nkoin Francis, and Fonteche J. II. West Region, Ibrahim Bumbu Njoya, Njomo Kamga Victor, and Nyak Njifenji Marcel. South Region, Ngali Ngwa Pierre Henry, Menyi Ondo François Xavier, and Bisek Paulette. Southwest Region, Mafani Musonge Peter, Fon Mukete Esimi Go Victor, Chief Anja Simon. The presidential decree further indicates that their mandate begins May 14 with the first ordinary session of the Senate.
And following the completion of the members of the upper house of parliament, the first senatorial session is due to hold in 5 days. The session would see the adoption of the rules and regulations to govern the house of the Senate and also the election of the Senate Bureau. And the Bureau would see the election of the President of the Senate, who would have the power to designate 3 people to form the much talked about Constitutional Council. The Constitutional Council would also organize elections in case of any vacancy in the country. Meanwhile, another decree that was signed yesterday by Head of State Paul Biya saw the promulgation into law the bill on the extension of mandates of members of parliament. MPs met recently in an extraordinary parliamentary session where they examined and adopted the bill, the mandates having extended for another 2 months. We now take you to the far north region of the country where business has reportedly declined after the 7 French nationals were taken hostage and later released in that part of Cameroon. Anabila in the following report tells us that it is now rare to find expatriates in public places as they are becoming more and more vigilant. Her report.
It is now very difficult to spot whites around the far north region of Cameroon. Since the 7 French nationals were taken hostage, the area has been declared a red zone to some expatriates. The Wassa Park, which used to attract so many tourists, is now almost void of them. And also business persons who made a living out of selling their works of art are complaining that losses are enormous.
L'impact là, je ne peux même pas vous mesurer les dimensions parce qu'elle est énorme.
However, this man, Olivier Pouini, says he is married to a Cameroonian and has no option but stay, though with some vigilance.
C'est-à-dire de faire un peu attention, de ne pas rouler à la nuit comme on le faisait avant.
Si on est basé à Mawa, on reste à Mawa.
The whites don't drive around at night and are careful while visiting public places. Security is, however, tight or reinforced in the northern regions of the country, especially around the Wassa Park. The tourists think the government should do more to regain their confidence.
From the far north region of Cameroon, we take you to Elik Fomo, a locality in the central region of the country where it is highly hit by underdevelopment. Social amenities are still absent in the said localities as locals are complaining of bad roads, just to name a few. Details in the following report with Roland Akon.
Motorbike is the predominant mode of transportation to and in the locality of Elik Fomo in the Leke division of the Central region. No travel agencies ply the road. 1,000 francs is the fare by bike and 700 francs by rail buses. There are no taps in Elik Fomo. Inhabitants cover a long distance to carry water from this lone water point to drink and to carry their household chores. The district hospital of Elik Fomo was created in 2003, but it is not well equipped and has inadequate personnel.
L'équipe de soins de l'hôpital de district.
This man says it is a chief nurse that plays the role of a medical officer in the hospital.
ne fonctionne réellement qu'avec un seul aide-soignant.
This is the town market of Elingfomo with broken sheds. These inhabitants say, despite the agric potential of the locality, there is acute food shortage, causing high cost of food in the locality. The youth of the area are interested and have the manpower to invest in agriculture and livestock. But they say they lack the means to do so. The underdevelopment of Elingfomo is blamed on power struggle among the elite of the area.
L'élite doit se regarder elle-même dans un miroir.
The coming of a new divisional officer gives hope of change and development to the population of the underdeveloped Elingfomo.
Meanwhile, environmentalists in the southwest region of the country have underscored the need for natural resources to be valorized, especially in the mining and extractive sector. An awareness campaign was launched in that part of Cameroon to help process data on the extraction and sales of minerals in that part of Cameroon, as Derek Dato tells us in the following report.
Before 2005, it was a crime in Cameroon to question the quality or quantity of extraction of mineral resources until the nation met her entry into the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, EITI, an international organization aimed to better transparency through publication of payment made by companies operating in the extractive sector to the state and the declaration of revenues received by the governmental unit from the said companies. On the instruction of Cameroon Head of State, the nation became a member in 2005 at the Lancaster Conference in London. Launching the awareness campaign in the southwest region, Mr. Silvano Shulika, head of the Yaoundé delegation, explained the significance of this initiative to the population.
The conciliatory reports help us, to know how much came in from the companies, from the extractive sector. Our report is to let you know what has come in. And once you know what has come in, they can now ask the government or see in the proposals of the elaboration of the national budget to see what can go where and how with regards to the little that the government gets from fuel.
As the mineral-rich southwest region waits to see how transparent this initiative will be, and the presence of senators to defend the interests of their regions had awaked the hope of the southwest population, and they are now looking forward to see how the resources development equation will be balanced.
Meanwhile, Christians in Cameroon today remembered and also celebrated the ascension of Jesus Christ to heaven, body and soul. Christians in Douala have been told to remain steadfast to God and also exercise the spirit of responsibility. Babla Jonathan, who went to some parishes here in the economic capital Douala, made us to understand that the various clergymen underscore the importance of Christians to come together and there are indications that the report of Babla Jonathan is ready, and he visited some parishes here in the economic capital Douala where clergymen underscored the need for Christians to exercise the spirit of responsibility as they celebrated the ascension of Jesus Christ. His report.
The Feast of Ascension, celebrated on the 40th day of Easter, that is, after the death of Jesus Christ, is one of the chief feasts of the Christian year.
40 jours après,
the Gospels tell us that 40 days after the death of Jesus Christ, he went up to heaven. This is why Christians commemorate this day with
avec
the
l'espoir et
hope that
l'espérance
they will join him.
que nous le rejoignions un jour.
Christians of different denominations gathered this Thursday to celebrate the ascension of Jesus Christ into heaven, body and soul.
L'ascension fait partie
Ascension
des
is
différentes
one of
fêtes
the
chrétiennes,
stages
des
in the
différentes
salvation
étapes du
plan
plan
of
de
God.
salut
Before
de
his
Dieu.
departure,
Déjà après,
Jesus
avant le
promised his
départ, Jésus
disciples
a
to
promis à ses
send unto
disciples
them a
d'envoyer un
comforter,
consolateur,
a
un
counselor.
paraclet.
He had to go
Il fallait
for
donc
this promise to
automatiquement
be
qu'il parte
accomplished.
pour que cette promesse soit accomplie.
The message of the day is centered on fundamental Christian values as inscribed in the Holy Bible.
Le message véhiculé, c'est
The
un
message
message
of
de
the day
foi.
is all about
C'est un
faith,
message de tolérance.
tolerance,
C'est un
peace,
message de
and
paix
love,
et un message
because
d'amour.
Jesus
Parce
has
que Jésus
always
nous a
shown
toujours
us
montré
his
sa
mercy.
miséricorde et il nous a dit d'être amour.
The ascension is considered as one of the major milestones in the gospel narrative of the life of Jesus Christ. The others are his baptism, crucifixion, resurrection, and the transfiguration.
We talk sports football before we go, as Cameroon has lost 2 places in world football ranking going by May 2013 FIFA classification table. The Lion squad moved from the 60th position to in the month of April, to the 62nd position in the month of May 2013, and Cameroonians come after Equatorial Guinea. And just to note that Ivory Coast has maintained the first position on the list in Africa, followed by Ghana and Mali. Top on the list going by FIFA's classification, we have Spain, followed by Germany, and third, Argentina. Still talking sports football, the presidents of the Elite 1 and 2 football clubs say they would not resume championship after the replacement of until the replacement of the president of the Professional Football League. In a letter addressed to Fecafoot, they implored the football governing body to call for a general assembly to elect a new bureau of the Professional Football League in the country. The decision came after the president of the league, General Pierre Semenge, said the championship would only resume when the clubs become viable business entities. And viewers, that does it for this segment of the news. Up next is Talking Point. Good evening to you viewers. Thanks indeed for joining us tonight on Talking Point. Cameroon's House of the Senate is now complete, like we mentioned in the course of the newscast, and we are now awaiting, or the country is now awaiting, the holding of the first ever senatorial session, which is going to hold in about 5 days. Our guest tonight is a senior lecturer in the University of Douala, Dr. Ngala Donatus. Good evening and thanks indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
Like earlier mentioned, the upper house of parliament is already complete with the recent appointment of the 30 remaining senators by head of state Paul Biya. And we noticed that in the list of those that have been appointed, we see about 18 traditional rulers, 10 former ministers in the country. So what's your assessment of the just appointed members of the Senate by head of state Paul Biya?
Yeah, thank you very much. We could say that, history goes very slowly, unfolds very slowly, but it goes very surely. I think that this adage, has come true, since the bicameral, assembly was conceived and constitutionalized. It's been quite several decades without that this becomes reality. Today it is a reality. We have the 2 houses, the upper house and the lower house, the bicameral assembly. Now the upper house is very intriguing. There are so many intriguing aspects and issues about the upper house, that is the House of Senate. First, it's a tripartite house. There are 2 major groups, with one of the groups is subdivided into 2. The first major group is the appointees, all right? The second one is the opposition, and then the third one is the ruling party. So the structure of the upper house is in 3 parts. Now, we notice a spectacular breakthrough of some traditional rulers into the upper house. And this is the will of the head of state. And we would rather say that it is an intensification of the formalization of the contribution, administrative contribution that is made by these traditional rulers, by the traditional institution in general. You know that we consider them in Cameroon as auxiliaries of the administration. So they have witnessed a formalization, an intensification of the formalization of their contribution to administration and to democracy in the country. Now, one thing we are really eager to see happening is the relation between these three blocks that I have just cited. We have a block which is made up of the ruling party. We have a block of the opposition, precisely the SDF. Then we have a block that has come into being, through the will of an individual that is the head of state. How are they going to relate within the House? I think that those who are there by virtue of the will of the people will feel a bit more, they feel that they have more weight, they're more noble than those who are there as a result of the will of an individual. And it will not be long before they begin really wrangling, because especially in debating issues, I am elected by my people. You are there by the will of somebody.
But is there any difference?
I don't think we don't have.
They are there to serve the nation.
Yeah, exactly. There is no difference as such. But we are saying that as human beings, when the chips will be down, and the talking will, commence, you will discover that some will feel rather more important than others. I think that those ones that were elected, will feel maybe more important than those ones that were simply appointed. Remember John Fundi, he gave up his candidacy for an appointed senatorial mandate. So it is like, you don't have a lot of dignity when you are, picked by the will of somebody, as compared to the will of the people, the entire people.
Now, Doctor, just to find out from you, some political analysts are arguing that there seem to be no surprise apart from the appointment of traditional rulers. We see over 10 of them into the House of the Senate. We see other former prime ministers or former ministers that have been at the government or have been ruling this country being appointed by head of state Pobia. There seem to be no surprise at all. How do you look at that?
That's a very pertinent issue. They may not be surprised. This is simply because many people think that whatever is happening on the political scene, on the democratization scene in Cameroon, is happening according to the will of one person. And most times, before an electoral process, folds up, we already know, or it is alleged that the pattern, the model, what is going to come out to emerge already known. That's what I say. That's what they say. Now, it's a very debatable issue, and it's a very passionate one too. A very interesting issue. I would rather say that President Biya has finally emerged as the mover and shaker of the democratization process in Cameroon. Take note, there's a little twist there that I want everybody to see. He has appointed 30, and the people have elected the rest. So you see that he has put himself in the minority. It is a very big risk for him to have allowed, if everything was happening according to his will and according to what you might think, would you choose a minority if you were the one that were actually deciding everything? And would you choose a minority against the majority? Because he's in the minority now, he appointed 30. The rest of them are elected.
Now before the
Why did he not say, I will appoint 60, for instance, or 70? So I think he's a Democrat. He has really taken a big risk. He wanted to show again that democratization process is unfolding according to his will, and not his will solely, but also the will of the people. That's why he took a humble position.
Do you really think that is the will of the people when we see very few political parties being appointed?
Well, take note that the head of state, he has a mandate, which is a popular mandate, and he uses it because, remember, the Constitution says that suffrage shall be exercised directly or indirectly. Exercised directly, as it was the case, people went down to the polls, or indirectly by the head of state. He represents, the people who elected him. So he can use the mandate the people gave him to do things, all right, in the interest of these people. And I think that in this particular instance, President Biya has shown himself again as a Democrat, or at least one who is toying with democratic processes, like allowing the electorate to give him 70 and he appoints only 30. Suppose in the assembly, the 70, or rather the upper house, if the 70 rebel, for instance, against those he appointed, because there's going to be a little conflict there.
Talking about democracy, I think that before the appointment of the 30 remaining senators to add up to the already elected 70, there were many groups happened to have come up. Maybe they stood up demanding for their place too in the Senate.
Yes.
Talking about lawyers, people with disability, women who stood up maybe wanting to be highly represented in the Senate. Also saw civil society actors and also politicians. Do you see this being put into place? Do you see the balance?
Again, that's very interesting. Now, we Cameroonians have to come together one day in a forum, I don't know what to call it, and decide what kind of democracy they really want. Because take note that Christianity came with the Bible. All Christians all over the world, all right, swear by the Bible. It's 10 Commandments. It's universal. But democracy in Cameroon came, you remember, it came through jungle justice at a time when the powers that be were not willing to concede multipartyism. So they were arm twisted by international community in collusion with the people and the massacres in Bamenda. All these things brought maximum pressure to bear on the regime to concede early multipartyism. So there was no preparedness. Otherwise, I think that we would have, from the outset, tried to agree with what, we want to have as a democratic process in Cameroon. We didn't agree on that. For instance, Christianity has a Bible. What does democracy or democratic process in Cameroon have? It doesn't have any rules, hard and fast rules that make things predictable.
Does that boil down to maybe many opinions that many political analysts are holding, as they are saying that maybe the process of democracy is being withheld by one person?
Well, I told you that these are debatable issues. Everybody wants to be appointed senator. But he had only 30 to appoint. The President of the Republic had only 30 to appoint. He couldn't appoint more. And those 30 he has appointed are very happy today. Now think of him coming up now to say, okay, it's not the 30 I've appointed, plus the what do you call it, alternate senators. It is
and
going to be
very few women, few political actors, civil society actors, and many traditional rulers as well as former ministers in the country.
Yeah, traditional rulers, as we said, they have a dominant presence in the upper house. It is because they are auxiliaries of administration, and their contribution was more or less informal. Now we want to formalize it. I think that is what is happening there. As for women, well, I think that a man represents the interest of himself and of the woman. I don't think that if I were a senator, I would be pursuing my own personal interest without caring about my wife or other women in society. So there is no polarity as such. I think in man you have woman, isn't it?
Yeah,
when you say woman, you see man.
Dr. Ngala Donatus for joining us tonight
to
talk about the just appointed senators by Head of State Paul Biya.
Yeah.
Thanks indeed to you viewers too for joining us in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinox Television. We shall be right back tomorrow, the same time. Meantime, have a wonderful stay in the company of our programs. Good evening to you all.